It's really great to be in Bergen. This is the second time this week I'm in Bergen. I live in Oslo. I guess I'm living in the wrong place. Yeah. As you quite rightly say, my name, Pellegrino, which is my first name, means pilgrim. It was given to me by my Italian parents. It's as if they knew what I was going to do for the rest of my life. You know, let's give him the name Pilgrim, and then he'll travel the world. And that's basically what I do. This is my workplace. I do a lot of traveling. I could give you a fancy title of what I do, but what I really do is I try to help people communicate better, especially in a global business world. So I try to help people communicate better with other nationalities. Now, you know, the first thing you think of when you work with other nationalities in cross-cultural communication is, let's look at the other cultures. Well, I take a slightly different approach. I say to people, take a look at yourself. So I'm going to talk a lot about perception, because it's all about perception, understanding what people see. Now, as you say, I have Italian in me. I have a lot of British in me. Some people are often surprised by my English accent. It's quite nice, isn't it? Yeah? Because you weren't expecting this. I know you weren't. You know, you're expecting me to speak with the Italian accent. Yeah? Don't speak like that. And I've been in Norway for over a third of my life, actually. So I've got a lot of Norwegian in me as well. And I love what I like doing with people. I have these little social experiments to test their perception of me. Now, as I say, I travel a lot. So I like playing with the airlines. I like going up to the airlines and talking English, or sometimes I talk with an Italian accent to see what kind of reactions I get. And English is the best one. If you want good service, you speak English like I do. It's fantastic. People take you seriously. Well, they do, you know. I mean, yesterday the plane to Bergen was late, you know, and if I go up and say, excuse me, it's 30 minutes late, I'm a punctual person, I don't like being late, you know, they just take you seriously. But yesterday I thought I'd try it in an Italian accent. So I went up and I actually said, you know, excuse me, but the plane is 30 minutes late. I'm a punctual person, you know. Exactly. I got the same reaction as you did there, yeah? And this is one of the problems of working with other nationalities. You know, people see what they want to see, and they don't always see what you see. And this is one of the challenges. Now, just before we get into it, culture, let's look at culture. Culture, my definition of culture, and I know this doesn't cover everything. But let's keep it simple. I usually do 2-day workshops in this. I've got 18 minutes. A system of behavior that helps us act in an accepted or familiar way. Keywords there, accepted or familiar. We're basically doing things which are accepted in our social group and which are familiar. So a lot of my work is actually explaining Norwegian behavior to other nationalities. So I'm constantly looking for this sort of, can we describe a Norwegian in a nutshell? And I think I found it. I found this fantastic text on the internet. I want you to read it with me. It's worth reading, eh? If you were to use a color to describe this person, he would have to be green. He lives in isolation in his home, a place he best describes as his and cozy. However, he's not the most receptive of people when it comes to visitors. Okay? The typical Norwegian. He is somewhat primitive, but he is honest, straightforward, and all he really wants in life are the simple little pleasures like peace and quiet. Do you recognize any of this? There are some key words that kind of, can you see that? They jump out at you. And you think, okay, it's a stereotype, but a lot of this is a bit true. And I show this to Norwegians, and they kind of nod, yeah, okay, I'll give you that one. And then I surprise them. This is a description not of a Norwegian, but of a Hollywood film star. Yeah, would you like to know who it is? There it is. It's that person there. And the point about this is you often believe what people tell you as well, you know? I could sit there and tell you this is a Norwegian, yeah, and you believe it. It's not a Norwegian at all, although maybe this could be a Norwegian. There he is going off to his house there. But there are many words in there which are accepted and familiar. Now, another accepted and familiar thing about Norwegian life is the Norwegian forest. I live in the Oslo area, it's all forest. And working across borders is basically, you know, not accepting completely that your assumptions are the assumptions of others. I mean, that's logic, you know, common sense. And the Norwegian forest is a good thing, isn't it? Norwegians in the room. It's all good. It's fresh air, it's nature, it's elks, it's skiing. It's fantastic. Well, that's what my wife thought the first time my father visited us in Norway, because she thought we would do something nice. So my wife asked my Italian father, would you like to go for a walk in the forest? And my father looked at her and said, why? And I had to explain to my wife that you can't say if you say to another Italian, hey, you and me, we go for a walk in the forest, that means something else. You don't do that, yeah? But how can you know that, you know? Because, you know, how could she know that? Accepted and familiar. You know, at the time we went for a drive with my father, and we're all looking at the same thing. Look at this, you know, beautiful Norwegian landscape. And my father's taking photographs, you know, that he wants to show his friends. And the road is kind of bumpy, so he says to my wife, could you slow the car down, please? Stop the car. I want to take a proper photograph. And my wife says, but Mr. Riccardi, there's nothing here. And he looks at her and he says to her, I know, I never seen nothing before. But, you know, but what was amazing with this is we're looking at the same pictures and we're using completely different words to describe it. And this is the challenge of working across borders. We've got different ideas of accepted and familiar. Here's what's accepted and familiar to me when I queue. I was raised in the UK. We are the world champions of queuing, waiting in line. And you know, aren't we? We're fantastic, yeah? You know, if you're waiting in line in a supermarket in the UK, let's say there are 10 people waiting in line. And we're all getting a bit impatient, you know, because we're all waiting in line. And then they open a new cash register. Do you know what will happen in the UK? The first 4 people, they won't move. They'll stay in the queue. The next 6 people will move to the next cash register in more or less the same order. And they kind of check with each other. And if they open another cash register, the same will happen. It's like a formation dance. It's fantastic, eh? Would the same happen in Norway? No. What would happen if they shout out in Norwegian, it's ledig kasse, which is available cash register? What happens? Everybody goes for it. It's first come, first served. Isn't that what's accepted and familiar? Now, the first time that happened to me, I was shocked. And I said some not very nice things about Norwegians. But, you know, you've got to dig a bit deeper to find out, why do Norwegians do that? Why are they running for that cash register? Why is it a free-for-all and first come served? I think it's got to do with this. What, they say? This is the King of Norway on a train in 1973, that guy in the cap on the right. This is equality. And I think the queuing system in Norway is all about equality. First come, first served is about equality. And it's the ability to dig under the surface and find out what the underlying values are. That's how you know how to communicate with people. And this thing with equality is really important in Norway. It's the reason we're so laid back with each other. We don't bother with titles. We dress casually. It makes a fantastic business environment, actually. Doesn't it? But sometimes this can take you a little bit by surprise. And in those situations where you feel uncomfortable or irritated, we have a tendency to jump to the negative conclusions rather than the positive conclusions, you know? And I mean, I travel all over the world. And I know you're not supposed to, this isn't an advertisement for the airlines, but it's Scandinavian Airlines, and it's Lufthansa, and it's Singapore Airlines. And everybody knows that Singapore Airlines has the best service. Why? Because they have a whole lot more hierarchy in their societies. And therefore, when they serve you, they serve you. And Singapore Airlines staff, I don't know if you've ever been on the Singapore Airlines flight, but you just from the moment they welcome you, they look like they're going to serve you, don't they? I mean, it's just the body language. It's like anything for you, sir. Now, if a Scandinavian Airlines person did this when you came on, yeah, exactly, you would get suspicious, wouldn't you? What's going on? Because it's not accepted or familiar. That's it, you know? This is what it's all about. So this is how we do it. And look at the space. Space is important. Nobody's touching. And if you go to somewhere like Finland, that space becomes even more. Can you see it? Look at it. It's fantastic. And look at the way they queue in France. There's nothing like the way I'm used to queuing. And it's different every day. It's never the same. And in some cultures, you need a bit more motivation to stand in line. And this is my favorite one. This is fantastic. Look at this. Huh? Isn't that great? They're all different. We're all doing the same thing in slightly different ways. Now, how do you get across borders? How do you navigate through this? Because you can't learn all the codes. It's impossible. Here's a tip. This is what I'm really passionate about. Curiosity. I am, have been, always will be a curious person. Curiosity gets you through a lot of things. I believe you can ask any question to anybody about just about anything, provided you do it with curiosity. That's it. And curiosity is a great thing. Now, I've got 3 kids. Kids are the most curious creatures on the planet. A recent survey I read, I don't know if I believe this, but I have to quote it. Apparently, 4-year-olds will ask up to 390 questions per day. 82% of those questions will be to mothers rather than fathers. Do you know why? Because when the kid goes to the father, what does the father say? Go and ask your mother, yeah? You know? Curiosity is so important, you know. And I remember the time, you know, one of the most difficult situations I had, I was having a meal in Helsinki in Finland. And I was sitting there, and the thing is, Italians, when we eat, we talk. We have to talk, actually. We eat and we talk, we eat and we talk. And we're not alone on that, actually. There are many cultures that do that. Finns, on the other hand, don't have to talk. They can talk, but they don't have to. So I'm sitting next to this Finn, and I'm trying to be curious and create conversation. And I thought, okay, small talk. The rules of engagement of small talk. Rule number 1, ask a simple question. Curious, simple question. Rule number 2, listen to the answer, pick out a word, follow up that word. It's really simple, actually. So I was there, and this quiet Finn was sitting next to me, and I turned to him and I said, so have you lived in Helsinki all your life? And he looked at me a little strangely and he said, not yet. Moments like this, which word do I follow up on? Not yet, They really challenge your curiosity, but you've got to be curious, and it's really simple. Do you know what it is about the Nordic cultures? It's all about economy of language. Italians use loads and loads of words to say very, very little, actually. In the Nordic countries, it's different. It's the opposite. It's minimum words, maximum message, right? So where I was raised in the UK is also lots of words, by the way. Look at this. Excuse me, may I just interrupt you for a second? That's 10 words. That's way too many words. The Norwegians managed to do this in one word. Now, that's what I call economy of language. What's the word? Look at this. Yeah, that's it. Here's another example. Look, sorry for bumping into you like that. Terribly clumsy of me. That's way too many words. The Norwegians do it in one word. Ready? There he goes. Fantastic, eh? And my favorite, and you know the answer. Sorry, I didn't quite catch what you just said. Well done. Ha, one word. Now, the first time I heard that, I just heard this, you see. Ha. I've got 3 kids now going, ha, ha, ha. But look beyond the negative side and look to the curiosity. And this is it. We're often misperceived because on a serious note, this ha, which I've heard many times, doesn't often get perceived very positively by other nationalities. You get it, yeah? And everyone has been misperceived in their life. I mean, the Dutch are often misperceived. They complain a lot. They are the world champions of complaining, the Dutch. But why do they do it? They do it because they're looking for something better. And one way you do it is to complain and seek a better result. That's often difficult. I used to work with a guy who was French. He is French. I used to work with him. His name was Yves. Yves complained a lot as well. He complained about everything, and he questioned everything. He had a fantastic mind. I would come into work, and once I came into work, and I said to Yves, "Good morning." And he looked at me and he said, "Is it?" I mean, he was on that level, And I've had my challenges too. The biggest challenge I've had living in Norway and trying to communicate with my fellow Norwegians is, of course, this thing with feelings and expressing feelings. Where I come from, we express. What I've had to learn to do, is kind of tone myself down, actually, living in the Nordic countries. Living in Norway, tone myself down. Keep it low, keep it calm, because that works better, which is often very, very difficult, yeah? Another thing is rules. I still find rules a little tricky, I must admit. That's where I'm quite Italian. Now, these are people driving into work in a town in Norway. They're following rules, can you see? And they're simple rules. The rules are keep between the lines and don't use that lane over there. That's the public transport lane, unless you're a bus, a taxi, or an electric car. Simple rules. And look at this. Every single car manages to drive between the lines. It's fantastic. Now, this is a little clip that I took this summer driving down to Italy. This is a police car. That car has got nothing to do with the police car. And it's just a little short clip here. But, look at him. I mean, would you do that in Norway? You know you wouldn't. Huh? And this is another clip in France. What they do, look. What happens is that they drift. I love that guy in the BMW there. Do you see that? The French guy. Are you going left or right? I do not know yet. I've not decided. It's fantastic. And then some countries, here you can't even see the lines. Where are the lines? Where are they, And I suggested once to an Indian colleague of mine, perhaps if you painted the lines more regularly, people would follow the rules. And he just said, no, that would be a waste of paint, So it would That's why we have traffic wardens. That's why we have traffic wardens in Norway. This is a traffic warden in Norway giving a fine to this car. Now, I'm just going to check. You see, Norwegians know these rules instinctively. It's your duty to learn the rules. But can I ask you, why is that car going to get a fine? Why is he going to get a fine? Too close to the zebra crossing, the pedestrian crossing. What's the minimum distance? And people mumbling 5, 5, 4, 5. You know this stuff. It's like a stupid question. So the day I parked my car in Oslo, let me just explain what's going on. You see, the line goes under here and then underneath the wheel. This is no parking. I was in a little bit of a hurry. And my wife said to me, I think you should move your car forward a little bit. I said, why? Just move your car. You'll get a fine. Why? Just please move your car. You could see she was really uncomfortable, you know? And this irritated me. I thought, I haven't got time for this. Let's go. So I left. Okay. And this is especially for the Norwegians in the room. Did I get a fine? Do you feel sorry for me? No. You get no sympathy. No sympathy whatsoever, you know? It's a simple bloody rule. Follow the rules, you know? Now, Italians believe that the power of speech, the power of persuasion is your most important tool in life. We believe that you can appeal to people, and if you're good enough at appealing, they might listen to you and they might find an alternative solution. So I believed that I could call the Oslo traffic police and talk my way out of a problem. And I can see Norwegians doing this. Oh, no. You're wasting your time. Don't bother. No, I thought I would try. So I called the guy down at the Oslo traffic. Hello, this is Pellegrino. By the way, I spoke English, of course, not Norwegian, because they take it more seriously. Eh? Hello, this is Pellegrino Riccardi, referring to case 78206. Yes, I have it in front of me here. Listen, I was just wondering if we could be a little bit flexible on this. I mean, we're only talking about 20 centimeters. I'm really sorry. I've learnt my lesson. I won't ever do it again. That kind of stuff. Did it help? Not at all. To his credit, he was good. He was really good. I could hear him clicking in the background. He had all the rules. He was saying, I'm very sorry, but the wheel must be inside the box. It says here in the rule 5, paragraph D. He had all the answers in front of him. Yeah? And then he said something I'll never forget. He said to me, Riccardi is your name. You may be Italian. Well, you probably like football. I said, I do like football. Well, it's like football, the ball must be over the line, the wheel must be on the ball. It was fantastic. Now, it was great. He had all the answers, black and white, He had everything. Fine. So I told my friend Yves this. My friend Yves, the French guy, who got really irritated. Remember Yves? Is it? But he's really good at asking questions. And he said, okay, the wheel must be inside the box. He said, what if I take the wheel off the car? What would happen then? I thought that was really interesting, actually. What would happen? So I called back and asked him, what would happen if I took the wheel off the box? He didn't have an answer for me. He couldn't answer that question. Why not? Because it's not an accepted and familiar question, and he doesn't have that approach. Then you need the help of an Italian, because the time I parked my car in Italy, you see, I was looking for a parking place on holiday. Impossible. I see a traffic warden. I go up to her, and I start talking in Italian, and I say, listen, I'm looking for a parking place. And she says, there is a parking house nearby, but don't park your car there. Why not? She says, it's too expensive. 40 euro. Really? What should I do? And she says, I like you. You seem like a nice fellow. I like you. I like the way you talk Italian. I'm going to help you today. She says, park your car over there. And she points over to this sign and says, go and park your car over there. Come on, I can't park. It's okay. It's not dangerous. Park your car there. Don't pay 40 euro in the parking house. Park your car over there. I give you a fine for 30 euro. You save yourself 10 euro. Now, I'm not here to discuss whether it's right or wrong, but what I can tell you is that I get it. I get it because I've got it inside me. I've seen this before, and I accept it, and I can see the positive elements. You see, these 3 cultures I have inside me, just to finish off, this is what I'm passionate about. I've got 3 cultures inside me, and they're all very different. They're planets apart. They really are in certain aspects. But you know what I try to do on a daily basis, especially with my kids? I try to take the best of all 3. Take the best of all 3 and try to merge them into one new culture where you take the best of all 3. Across borders isn't about going across borders in my mind. It's about extending your borders and creating new ones around us. And you know what? If you can create a new culture where you take the best of all 3, like I tried to do, and it's not easy, guess what? That's when you create what we call a global mindset. And I believe this is what makes the world go round. Thank you very much.